Okay, let's really get into this. We have a number here, a really huge number, that it does more than just define the average American's working life. Honestly, it feels like it dictates whether you retire comfortably or, find yourself working way longer than you planned. We're actually going to start with something I bet almost everyone listening has gone through. Maybe it was 30, 40 years ago, maybe more recently. Just picture yourself, maybe 16 years old. You just wrapped up your first couple of weeks at a part-time job, scooping ice cream maybe, or working retail.
Yeah.
You did the quick math, right? $8.50 an hour, 20 hours.
Yeah.
That's got to be $170.
Mm-hmm. Simple math.
Exactly. Then you get that first paycheck, or maybe you check your bank app and, it's $143.67.
Yeah.
You're staring at the stub or the screen, completely baffled. You see these weird codes, FICA, FWT, SWT, what even are those? And you ask the question everyone asks their first boss, where did the rest of my money go?
Right. The universal first job question.
And what do you get back? Usually some variation of a shrug and welcome to the real world, kid. Right.
That's pretty much it, a rough welcome.
That feeling, that confusion over maybe $30 missing from your teenage paycheck, that's actually just the tiny, annoying opening scene to this massive, 60-year financial story. I really want you to remember that first feeling of shock because, honestly, it might be the only time these costs feel truly new. They blend into the background so quickly, don't they?
They really do. They become part of the financial furniture. You almost stop seeing them.
Until maybe you hit a rough patch financially, then suddenly you're noticing every penny.
Exactly. And that fading into the background, that's precisely the issue we're digging into today. We're zooming out from that teenager wondering about $30 to the whole adult life. We're fast forwarding, say, 60 years from that first job and looking at the grand total, everything. All the medical bills, tax returns, insurance premiums, the whole shebang across a working career.
Okay.
And this deep dive, it's grounded in some really intensive research. Months of work by the team over at the InterSistence blog. They crunched the numbers, and the final figure they came up with is, it's staggering.
Lay it on us.
They found that the average American worker over their adult working life is going to pay a combined $2.4 million. That's in taxes, health insurance premiums, and all those out-of-pocket medical costs.
Whoa, hang on. Stop right there. $2.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not just gloss over that. I want you, listening right now, to actually try and visualize that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's astronomical. You're saying this isn't just some political talking point, not hyperbole.
Yeah.
This is the actual math based on tracking a typical worker's costs over, 45 years?
It is the absolute mathematical reality, and it's based on current costs and, frankly, pretty conservative projections of how those costs escalate. And here's the really profound part, I think, that $2.4 million. Statistically speaking, it is the largest single expense most Americans will ever face.
Bigger than mortgage.
Bigger than raising kids.
Bigger than total spending on mortgages, transportation, and food combined for many people. Yet, think about it, because it's sliced up paycheck by paycheck or hidden in insurance statements, those explanation of benefits nobody understands.
Or paid in quarterly tax estimates, it stays almost invisible. You never, ever get a single bill that says total cost of adult life, $2.4 million.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It's this invisible giant just sitting on everyone's finances.
Okay.
To make sure everyone feels confident in this number because it is so huge, let's talk about how they got there. The methodology.
Right. Absolutely crucial.
The InterSistence team, you said, didn't just guess. They used real data, right?
Yes.
Authoritative sources.
Exactly. No theoretical models here.
Yeah.
They anchored everything to the best data available. Like for healthcare costs, they leaned heavily on the Kaiser Family Foundation's KFF's 2024 Employer Health Benefit Survey. That's basically the gold standard for premium data.
Okay, KFF. Got it.
Then for income, they used U.S. Census Bureau data to build that profile of the median worker. And for how much people earn over a whole career, they pulled research from the Social Security Administration.
So blending those top-tier sources, KFF, Census, Social Security, that gives it real weight.
It moves us beyond just, guessing or making assumptions. Our goal here today is to really dissect this massive cost. We want to take that confusion that 16-year-old felt about their missing $30 and basically put it under a microscope. Use the data to show exactly how that small deduction snowballs into a $2.4 million claim on your entire working life.
And crucially, what does that mean for your ability to actually get ahead to build real financial security?
That's the core question. All right, so before we break down the $2.4 million itself, we need to be really clear about who we're talking about. Who is this average American in the analysis?
Good point. Define the subject.
So the research model's a standard W-2 employee. That means someone getting regular paychecks, with the usual taxes and deductions taken out automatically.
Okay, not like a freelancer or a 1099 contractor.
Exactly. That W-2 status is key because it immediately plugs them into the payroll tax system. FICA taxes start from day one. Now, income-wise, this median worker, based on census data, they start out, progress through their career, and eventually hit an average annual income around $83,730 during their peak earning years.
83,000. Okay, so solidly middle class.
Pretty typical middle income profile, yes.
Now, you mentioned lifetime earnings before. The analysis uses an estimate of about $1.8 million in total earnings over that 45-year career.
That's the baseline figure they worked with, yes.
Okay, I have to jump in here because the source material you mentioned from the Social Security Administration, it shows a pretty significant difference between men and women, right? Like median lifetime earnings closer to $1.85 million for men, but only $1.1 million for women.
That's absolutely correct. There's a substantial gap.
So why use a blended $1.8 million figure? Doesn't that kind of obscure the reality for potentially half the audience? If a woman earns $1.1 million but faces these massive costs, isn't her situation even tougher?
That's a really important question, and you're right to raise it. The InterSistence team acknowledges that disparity, which stems from complex issues like time out of the workforce, the gender pay gap, and other factors. They opted for the $1.8 million blended median for a specific reason. The analysis focuses primarily on the costs themselves and how those costs relate to a continuously employed W-2 worker's potential income stream.
Okay.
So if we use the $1.85 million figure for men, the $2.4 million in costs would still be, incredibly high proportionally. And conversely, for someone earning closer to the $1.1 million median for women, these healthcare and tax costs become an even more crushing burden, making financial security almost impossible.
So the blended figure is sort of a representative middle ground to illustrate the overall systemic pressure.
Exactly. It serves as the foundational baseline to show the immense challenge faced by the typical middle-class W-2 earner, regardless of landing slightly above or below that specific median. The core problem remains the same. The costs are extraordinarily high relative to earnings.
All right, fair enough. So the time frame we're looking at is that full working life, 45 years, starting around age 22, first full-time job, right through to age 67, which is, full retirement age for Social Security these days.
That's the arc, basically the entire financial journey of adulthood.
And crucially, this calculation isn't just taking today's costs and multiplying by 45, right? That wouldn't be accurate at all.
No, absolutely not. That's vital. The analysis builds in escalation factors. They're conservative, but they reflect the persistent reality that costs, especially healthcare costs, go up over time.
Let's talk about that escalation because it's not uniform, is it? Comparing wages and healthcare premiums.
Oh, it's wildly different. And this is where the distortion really hits home. The economic data is stark. Look at just the past year. Average employer health insurance premiums jumped somewhere between 6 and 7%, depending on the specific plan.
A 6 to 7% increase in premiums.
Meanwhile, average worker wages, they increased by about 4.5%.
So healthcare costs are rising significantly faster than paychecks.
Significantly faster. And that gap isn't new. It's been happening for decades. That widening gap is really the engine driving this $2.4 million figure. It's like compound interest working against you. Every single year, a slightly larger piece of your potential earnings gets eaten up, just maintaining the status quo on healthcare and taxes. It's this relentless escalating pressure.
Which is why the analysis, even though it's based on an average profile,
it ends up feeling, as the researchers put it, disturbingly accurate for a huge swath of middle-income working Americans. That pressure is almost universal.
Okay, let's start chipping away at this $2.4 million mountain. First up, the government's share. Across federal, state, and local taxes, what's the total lifetime take we're looking at?
The analysis pegs the government's total claim at approximately $650,000 over that 45-year working life.
$650,000. Okay, let's break that down. Where does it start?
It starts with what the article calls the silent bite. Payroll taxes. These are those FICA taxes, Federal Insurance Contributions Act, that baffled our 16-year-old friend.
Right, the ones that just disappear from your check before you even see the money.
Exactly. They're deducted automatically from the very first dollar you earn, and they never stop. No deductions, no credits against these, generally.
Okay, so what's in FICA?
First, the big one, Social Security. You pay 6.2% of your income, up to a certain limit each year. Your employer also pays a matching 6.2%. So 12.4% total is going into the system theoretically on your behalf.
And your personal 6.2% contribution over a career for this median worker adds up to.
Approximately $200,000. $200,000 just for Social Security.
Now, you made a really critical distinction earlier. You said this isn't a personal savings account. It's an intergenerational wealth transfer. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think a lot of people do think of it as their money being saved for them.
That's a common misconception, but it's fundamentally not how the system works. That $200,000 you pay in over your career, it's not sitting in some account with your name on it, waiting for you to retire. No, it's immediately used to pay the benefits for people who are currently retired. It's a direct transfer between working generations and retired generations.
Okay, that's huge. So your benefit depends on future workers paying in.
Precisely. It also means the return isn't guaranteed in the same way a personal investment might be. Another key point is the income cap. In 2024, you only pay Social Security tax on the first $168,600 you earn.
Right.
So for most middle-income folks, they pay that 6.2% on all their earnings. But for someone making, say, $500,000 a year, they only pay it on that first $168K.
Which means they pay a much smaller percentage of their total income into Social Security.
Exactly. It functions like a flat tax for most people, but it actually becomes regressive at higher income levels. The very wealthy pay a smaller proportion of their income.
And for that $200,000 contribution, what does the average middle-class worker get back in retirement?
The replacement rate isn't fantastic. Social Security benefits typically replace less than 40% of a middle-class worker's pre-retirement income.
Less than 40%.
Yes. It was always intended to be just one leg of a three-legged retirement stool: Social Security, pensions, and personal savings.
But pensions have largely vanished, and as we'll see, saving is tough.
Precisely. So Social Security, meant as a supplement, often becomes the primary, sometimes only, safety net for millions of retirees, even though it replaces less than half their working income.
Okay, what's the other part of FICA?
Medicare. That's 1.45% of your income. Crucially, unlike Social Security, there's no income cap on Medicare tax. You pay 1.45% on every single dollar you earn. Over 45 years for our median earner, that adds up to about $50,000. And just like Social Security, this money is primarily funding health care for current seniors and eligible individuals, not pre-funding your own future medical needs under Medicare.
So it's another direct transfer.
Pure redistribution, yes. It's also worth noting there's an additional Medicare tax, another 0.9%, that kicks in for higher earners, those making over $200,000 single or $250,000 married, filing jointly. So if you have high earning years, that $50,000 lifetime total can definitely climb higher.
Wow. Okay, so just those two payroll taxes, Social Security, Medicare, the silent bite, that's $250,000 right there. $250,000.
$250,000 gone before you even start thinking about income taxes. It's the automatic, unavoidable baseline drain.
All right, now let's move to what people usually think of when they say taxes. The ones you file every year, the ones that can feel like a shock. Federal income tax.
Yes, the visible burden. This is the largest single component of the government's share, claiming approximately $320,000 over the median worker's lifetime.
$320,000. And the analysis mentioned this is where the middle class really feels the pinch, right? The marginal brackets.
Absolutely. It's the pain point of hitting, say, the 22% marginal tax bracket. For many middle-class families, especially married couples filing jointly, they spend a good chunk of their peak earning years in that bracket.
And marginal means that's the rate on the next dollar you earn, correct?
Yeah. Exactly. It means every extra dollar you earn from a raise, a bonus, maybe working some overtime or a side gig gets taxed at that 22% rate federally, plus whatever your state income tax rate is.
So it real dampens the incentive, doesn't it? You work harder, get a $5,000 bonus.
Right. You get that $5,000 bonus, you're excited, but then, boom, $1,100 vanishes instantly to federal income tax if you're in the 22% bracket. Maybe another, let's say $400 goes to state income tax depending on where you live. And don't forget, you still pay payroll taxes on that bonus too, another $380 or so for FICA.
Whoa.
Suddenly, that $5,000 bonus feels more like $3,000 in your actual pocket. Maybe even less.
Yeah, that definitely takes the shine off.
It creates this psychological hurdle. It feels like you're running faster and faster on a treadmill just to stay in the same place financially. That $320,000 lifetime federal income tax figure really captures where the government's most visible and often most frustrating claim comes into play.
Okay, so payroll taxes, $250K, federal income tax, $320K. That leaves the state and local piece. The analysis calls this one highly variable.
It's extremely variable. The article uses the phrase, geography becomes destiny, and I think that's spot on. The average American might pay around $80,000 in state and local taxes over their lifetime.
80,000 on average.
But that average hides a massive range. It's almost meaningless without context.
Let's use that software engineer example from the Resistance article. That made it really clear.
Great example. Okay, let's say you have a software engineer, peak salary, maybe conservative, $130,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
If that engineer lives and works in Austin, Texas, Texas has no state income tax. So their state and local burden over 25 years is primarily property taxes, sales taxes, maybe some excise taxes. That $80,000 average might actually be pretty close, maybe even a bit high for them.
Okay, so Austin evocates maybe $80 lifetime state local. Now, same engineer, same $130K salary, but they live in San Jose, California.
Totally different ballgame. California has a high state income tax rate, which can top 13% for higher earners. Add that on top of notoriously high property taxes in the Bay Area, plus sales taxes.
That $80,000 average goes out the window.
Completely. That lifetime state and local tax figure doesn't just double. For that California engineer, it could easily balloon past $200,000, maybe even approach $300,000 over 45 years compared to their Texas counterpart.
Wow. Just based on location?
Just based on location. That single choice where you decide to live and work can literally create a swing of $200,000 or more in your disposable lifetime income.
That's incredible. That's a huge financial lever right there.
It's one of the most powerful yet often overlooked levers an American worker has, especially now with more remote work flexibility. It directly impacts how much of that $650,000 total government claim you personally end up paying.
So let's recap the government's share. $250,000 in those automatic payroll taxes, $320,000 in federal income tax, and an average of $80,000 in state and local, but highly dependent on where you live. That brings us to $650,000 total.
$650,000.
Almost $250,000 claimed by the government before you've even started seriously saving for retirement or anything else.
Yeah.
That's sobering.
It is. And believe it or not, that's the smaller half of the $2.4 million total we're dissecting.
Smaller. Wait, what's bigger than all taxes combined?
And healthcare. Yeah, if you thought the tax numbers were heavy, brace yourself. Because the healthcare component, it's really the financial black hole for the average American worker.
Okay.
It's not just the biggest single category of expense. It actually costs more than all those taxes, federal, state, local, payroll put together. The analysis estimates the total lifetime healthcare burden at $1,595,000.
$0.6 million.
Almost.
Almost $1.6 million.
That number is almost impossible to comprehend. And let's be clear, this isn't just for people who get catastrophically sick, right?
Yeah.
This is the average cost just to exist within the U.S. healthcare system.
That's exactly right. This is the baseline cost of participation, the price of having access to routine care, dealing with normal health issues, and just being insured over a 45-year working life.
Okay. Where does that $1.6 million come from? Let's start with the biggest piece, I assume, the premiums, the monthly cost just to have insurance. Precisely. Premiums are the entry fee. And citing that 2024 KFF data again, the average annual premium for employer-sponsored family coverage has now blown past $25,500 a year.
$25,000 a year, just for the insurance policy itself.
Just for the privilege of carrying the insurance card. And for individual coverage, it's nearly $9,000 a year on average.
Okay, but most people don't pay that full amount directly from their paycheck, right? The employer covers a big chunk.
And this brings us to what the Resistance research calls the cost myth. It's probably one of the most misunderstood parts of American compensation.
The idea that your employer is giving you health insurance.
Exactly. You look at your pay stub, you see maybe $400 a month deducted for your share of the family premium. The total premium is, say, $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year, close to the average. So you think, wow, my employer is generously covering the other $1,600.
Yeah, that sounds like a great benefit.
But here's the economic reality, confirmed by decades of research. Economists call it wage pass-through. When your employer provides benefits like health insurance, they view the cost of those benefits as part of your total compensation package.
Meaning?
Yeah.
It's not extra money they're giving you.
Meaning the money they spend on that $1,600 premium contribution, it's money that could have otherwise gone to you in the form of higher wages or salary.
So it's effectively coming out of your potential pay raise.
It's coming directly out of your potential wages. It's your earnings being diverted to the insurance company before it even has a chance to hit your bank account.
Wow. So it's like a hidden deduction, a mandatory one almost.
It functions very much like a hidden tax on your labor that you generally can't opt out of, not easily anyway. If you could decline the insurance, a truly transparent employer should theoretically be able to give you that premium cost back as wages. But
But they rarely do. Or maybe only give back a fraction.
often, yeah. Or it's just not structured that way. So you have to account for that full premium cost, your share, plus the employer's share, as the true cost burden on your compensation. It's an opportunity cost.
Okay, that reframes things dramatically. So when we account for that full premium cost, the lifetime impact is.
It's absolutely devastating. Over 45 years, factoring in reasonable premium increases, the total lifetime premium cost comes out to $1,155,000.
Over $1.1 million.
Just in premiums.
Just in premiums. Let's trace how that adds up, because it happens in phases.
Okay.
First phase, young adult years, say age 22 to 32. You're likely on individual coverage. Even conservatively, let's estimate that averages $12,000 a year in total premium costs. Your share plus employer's share. Over 10 years.
That's $120,000 just getting started.
$120,000 spent just to be insured while you're launching your career.
Okay, phase two.
The critical family years.
Yeah.
Roughly ages 33 to 62. This 30-year stretch is when people are often raising kids, paying mortgages, trying to save for college, all the big life expenses.
And usually needing family health coverage. Exactly. And that's where the costs explode. Based on current KFF data and projecting forward, that family coverage premium easily averages $32,000 per year during this phase.
$32,000 a year for 30 years.
$32,000 a year for 30 years. Do the math.
$960,000. Almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million spent just on premiums during the core family raising and peak earning years.
My God. $1 million. Think about what else that money could have done. Invested for retirement, college funds. It just evaporates into premiums.
It completely evaporates, and it perfectly explains why so many families earning what seems like a good income, 100 tack 150K, even $200K, still feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. A huge chunk is silently flowing out the door to health insurance premiums every single month.
Okay, what's the last phase?
The pre-Medicare years, ages 63 to 67. Maybe the kids are grown, you scale back to individual coverage. Let's estimate that averages $15,000 a year in total premiums over those 5 years.
That's another $75,000?
Another $75,000, so you add it all up. 120K plus 960K plus 75K, you're at $1,155,000. Over $1.15 million simply for the right to hold an insurance card throughout your working life.
Unbelievable. But that's not even the end of the healthcare costs, is it? That's just the premium.
Not even close. That premium, that $1.15 million, just buys you the ticket to the game. Now you have to pay every time you actually play the game, every doctor visit, every prescription, every procedure. That's the fine print. Out-of-pocket costs.
Deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, all that stuff.
All of that. The analysis estimates that the average American worker spends roughly another $290,000 out of their own pocket on these direct healthcare costs over those 45 years.
$290,000 more. How does that break down?
Well, think about deductibles first. The average deductible for single coverage alone is almost $1,800 now. Family deductibles are often double or triple that easily, $4,000, $5,000, even $10,000 or more for some plans.
And you have to pay that before insurance starts covering most things.
Exactly. Then you have coinsurance for bigger things, surgeries, hospital stays. You might pay 20% of a bill. It's tens of thousands of dollars. Add in copays for every doctor visit, specialist visit, ongoing prescription drug costs.
It adds up fast.
It adds up incredibly fast. Hitting an average of $6,500 a year in out-of-pocket spending is unfortunately quite typical for many families, especially those with chronic conditions or unexpected health issues.
And $6,500 a year, year after year, for 45 years.
Gets you pretty close to that $290,000 figure. It's this constant, relentless drain on savings and disposable income. It's non-negotiable spending you just have to cover.
Okay, so we have $1, $15 in premiums, 290Ks in out-of-pocket. We're already over $1.4 million. Is there more?
There is, because the system seems almost designed to have gaps, doesn't it? There are essential services that most health insurance plans just don't cover well or at all. The analysis lumps these into coverage gaps, adding roughly another $150,000 to the lifetime total.
$150,000 in gaps? Like what?
Think about dental care. Most employer-sponsored dental plans are, well, they're pretty weak.
Yeah, the annual maximums are really low, aren't they?
Shockingly low, often capped at $1,000 or $1,500, maybe $2,000 a year if you're lucky. That limit was often set decades ago and hasn't kept up with the actual cost of dental work at all.
So one major procedure wipes it out.
Easily. A single root canal and crown can cost $3,000, $4,000. A dental implant, maybe $5,000 or more. If you or your family members need significant dental work over a lifetime orthodontics, crowns, implants, gum surgery, you're paying thousands upon thousands out of pocket, way beyond what basic dental insurance covers.
Okay, dental's a big one. What else?
Vision care is similar. Basic eye exams might be covered, but glasses, contacts, especially things like progressive lenses or specialized contacts, mostly out of pocket. LASIK surgery, definitely out of pocket. Hearing aids, extremely expensive, often thousands of dollars per ear, and frequently poorly covered by standard insurance.
Right. These things feel essential, but they're treated like extras.
They are, but the single biggest, most financially terrifying gap lurking within this $150,000 figure is long-term care.
Nursing homes, home health aides, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The kind of care many people need later in life due to chronic illness, disability, or just frailty. And the brutal truth is, Medicare provides virtually no coverage for this type of extended, non-medical custodial care.
Really? Medicare doesn't cover nursing homes.
Not for long-term stays. It might cover a short, skilled nursing facility stay after a hospitalization, but not the months or years of custodial care many seniors need.
So who pays for it?
You do, out of pocket, until you run out of money. The average cost for a semi-private room in a nursing home today is close to $100,000 per year.
$100,000 a year.
Per year. Think about that. It can obliterate a lifetime of savings in just a few years, and statistics show over 70% of people turning 65 today will need some form of long-term care in their remaining years.
And most people don't have separate long-term care insurance, do they?
Very few do. It's become notoriously expensive, the premiums have skyrocketed, and it can be difficult to qualify for, especially if you wait until you're older.
So the default plan is spend down your life savings.
The default plan for millions of Americans is, sadly, to pay out of pocket until their assets are completely depleted, at which point they might qualify for Medicaid, the government's welfare program for the poor, to cover the nursing home costs.
That's a bleak prospect after a lifetime of work.
It's incredibly bleak, and that massive potential cost, that threat hanging over retirement, justifies a significant portion of that $150,000 coverage gap estimate. Even if you save diligently your whole life, needing long-term care can still pull the financial rug out from under you and your family.
Okay, so let's put the whole healthcare picture together now.
Right.
We had a $1,155,000 in lifetime premiums, another $290,000 in average out-of-pocket costs,
Right.
and $150,000 for those crucial coverage gaps like dental, vision, and especially long-term care.
I add it all up.
That brings us to $1,595,000, nearly $1.6 million, just for healthcare.
That's the total healthcare demand on the average American worker's finances over their career. It's a truly staggering number. #V, the sobering sum and global perspective. Okay, so let's put the two big pieces together now. The government's claim, $650,000.
Yeah.
Healthcare's demand, $1,595,000.
Okay.
Add those two up, the raw total is $2,245,000. And the intersistence analysis points out, when you factor in all the little embedded costs along the way, taxes on investment gains you might have made, property transfer taxes when you buy a house, things like that, it rounds pretty cleanly and conservatively up to that $2.4 million total price tag.
$2.4 million. That's the cost of taxes and healthcare for the average working American over 45 years.
That's the figure.
Now, here's where it gets really, really sobering for me. Let's bring back the other number, lifetime earnings. You said the analysis uses a median lifetime earnings figure of about $1.8 million.
That's right. Approximately $1.8 million earned over the 45-year career.
So, wait a minute. The unavoidable costs, taxes and healthcare, total $2.4 million. But the average person only earns $1.8 million. How is that even possible? The costs exceed the earnings.
That's the mathematical crux of the entire problem, isn't it? How do you pay $2.4 million in non-discretionary costs when you only earn $1.8 million?
Yeah.
Well, the difference has to come from somewhere. It implies living beyond one's means, financed by debt, perhaps, or maybe relying on inherited wealth if you're fortunate, or most commonly for the average person.
What?
It comes from not saving enough for retirement. It comes from sacrificing future security to meet present-day obligations. That $2.4 million figure represents essentially 75% of total lifetime earnings for that median worker.
75%. 3/4 of every single dollar you earn over your entire working life is consumed by taxes and healthcare costs you cannot avoid.
That's the stark reality. When 3/4 of your lifetime income is already spoken for by these mandatory systems, your ability to actually build wealth Buy that house free and clear, invest significantly, maybe retire early, leave something for your kids. It's fundamentally handicapped from the start.
The comparisons the analysis used really put that $2.4 million into perspective. You mentioned, what was it, 10 houses?
Yeah, depending on the market, $2.4 million could potentially buy 10 median-priced homes in many parts of the country. Or think about education. It could fund roughly 48 years of tuition at an average in-state public university.
48 years of college tuition.
It's more than the entire gross domestic product of some small countries, like Palau. It's just this immense financial weight sitting squarely on the shoulders of the average American worker.
And here's the kicker, right?
Yeah.
The article calls the American anomaly. How does this compare to other developed countries?
Ugh, the global perspective. This is where it gets truly shocking, or maybe infuriating. The data consistently shows that Americans pay roughly twice as much for healthcare compared to citizens in other wealthy developed nations like Canada, Germany, France, the UK, Australia.
We pay double.
We pay double, yet tragically we often get inferior health outcomes. If you look at international comparisons for things like life expectancy, infant mortality rates, rates of chronic disease, the U.S. often ranks poorly compared to countries that spend far less per person on healthcare.
Or we're paying a premium price for, well, not premium results.
That's putting it mildly. And this isn't a static problem. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
That stat about family premiums increasing 24% in just the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That growth rate consistently outpaces inflation and wage growth. So year after year, healthcare costs consume an ever larger slice of the economic pie, putting more pressure on families and making it harder and harder to save.
The comparison to the OECD average spending was stunning. OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, right? The group of developed countries.
Correct. And the analysis highlighted this. If the United States could somehow manage its healthcare spending to align with the average spending levels of other OECD countries,
What would happen to our lifetime cost?
that lifetime healthcare burden wouldn't be $1.6 million. It would drop to approximately $650,000.
$650,000, down from $1.6 million.
Yes, a savings of nearly $1 million per person over their working lifetime.
$1 million.
$1 million. Just think about what that would mean for the average family's economic life. An extra $1 million over 45 years to invest, to save, to spend on education, to start a business, to pass on to the next generation.
It would be completely transformative.
Completely transformative. The current structure of the U.S. healthcare system, particularly the way premiums are handled, acts as this massive ongoing drag on economic mobility and security for tens of millions of people.
And that $2.4 million total burden, that 75% claim on earnings, it perfectly explains what the article calls the paycheck-to-paycheck paradox, doesn't it?
It really does. People wonder, how can a family earning $100,000, $150,000, even more, still feel like they're struggling, like they have no breathing room?
Yeah.
This is why. Because that 75% lifetime claim is relentless. It's constant. They might be high-income earners, but they're also incredibly high outflow families, primarily due to taxes and healthcare. There's just not that much left over, proportionally.
And that directly leads to the retirement crisis we hear so much about.
Inevitably, if you have these massive, unavoidable outflows throughout your prime saving years, building a substantial personal nest egg becomes incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for many.
Which forces people onto Social Security.
Exactly. Social Security, which we established replaces less than 40% of income and was meant to be just a supplement, ends up having to be the primary lifeline because the opportunity to build the other legs of the retirement stool, personal savings, mainly was systematically eroded by decades of high taxes and absolutely ballooning healthcare costs.
And it also makes sense, then, that pretty much every major political debate we have, tax reform, healthcare reform, Medicare for all, whatever it is,
It all fundamentally centers on this $2.4 million burden. It's always about who pays for it and how it gets paid. Do we shift more costs onto higher earners through progressive taxes? Do we try to control healthcare spending itself? Do we push more costs onto individuals via high deductibles?
But the pot of money it's coming from is ultimately the same.
Ultimately, it's coming out of the productivity and earnings of the American workforce. The $2.4 million is the size of the claim. The political fights are about how to carve it up.
Which brings us back to that value question you raised.
Yeah, the ultimate question for you, the listener, has to be, are you getting $1.6 million worth of value from the healthcare system over your lifetime? Is the access, the quality, the peace of mind worth that cost?
And are you getting $650,000 worth of value from the government services, roads, schools, defense, social programs funded by your taxes?
Those are tough questions. But understanding the sheer scale of the cost, that $2.4 million, isn't about taking a political side. It's about basic financial awareness. It's about being able to hold these incredibly expensive systems accountable for the enormous share of your financial life they consume.
Okay, those numbers, that $2.4 million, the 75% of lifetime earnings.
Hmm.
It's undeniably heavy. It can feel overwhelming, maybe even a little bit
You
hopeless.
definitely can. The scale is just so large.
But the goal of doing this deep dive, digging into the intersistence analysis, it isn't to leave you feeling defeated. It's the opposite. It's about empowerment.
Absolutely. Awareness is the first step.
Because understanding this $2.4 million reality, seeing how it works, that's the starting point for actually fighting back, for mitigating the impact on your own financial life. We need to think of financial literacy not just as something nice to have, but as economic self-defense. By being strategic about how you handle the costs you can't avoid, you genuinely can save yourself tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your career.
You have to become your own best financial advocate because the system itself isn't necessarily set up in your best interest.
So where do we start? What are the practical strategies?
Well, since you know a huge chunk of money is going to be spent on healthcare, one of the most powerful things you can do is optimize the way you spend it, particularly using tax advantages. The analysis really highlights the strategic use of health savings accounts, HSAs.
HSAs, okay, talk about those. They're tied to high deductible health plans, right?
Correct. You generally need to be enrolled in a qualified high-deductible health plan, HDHP, to contribute to an HSA. But if you are, an HSA is arguably one of the most powerful savings and investment tools available, period.
Why is it so powerful?
Because it offers a unique triple tax advantage. First, the money you contribute goes in tax deductible, reducing your current taxable income.
Okay, tax break up front.
Second, the money in the HSA can be invested and grows completely tax-free. No taxes on interest, dividends, or capital gains inside the account.
Tax-free growth. Nice.
And third, this is the kicker. If you withdraw the money for qualified medical expenses, those withdrawals are also completely tax-free.
Deduction going in, tax-free growth, tax-free coming out for medical costs.
Triple tax perfection. It's incredibly rare in the tax code. There's no other account quite like it.
So the strategic play isn't just using it like a checking account for this year's doctor bills.
Ideally, no. If you can afford to, the strategic move is to contribute the maximum allowed to your HSA each year, invest it for long-term growth, and try to pay your current, smaller medical expenses out of pocket using other funds.
Let the HSA money compound tax-free.
Exactly. Let it grow over decades. Then, later in life, when you inevitably face larger healthcare costs, remember that $290,000 in out-of-pocket spending and the $150,000 coverage gap. You'll have this substantial tax-free fund ready to cover those expenses. It essentially becomes a dedicated medical retirement account.
It makes a ton of sense. Using tax advantages to prepare for costs you know are coming.
It's crucial. Beyond the HSA, there are other basics. Absolutely maximize your employer's 401k match if you have one. That's literally free money, often a 50% or 100% return on your contribution, and it grows tax-deferred. It directly helps offset some of that government tax claim.
Don't leave free money on the table. Got it.
And be smart about choosing your health plan each year during open enrollment. Don't just default to the same plan. Think about your expected usage. If you're young and healthy, maybe that high deductible plan paired with an HSA saves you a lot on premiums, freeing up cash to invest.
But if you have chronic conditions or anticipate needing more care,
Then paying a higher premium for a plan with a lower deductible and lower out-of-pocket maximum might actually save you thousands of dollars over the year and prevent catastrophic bills. You have to analyze the trade-offs based on your situation.
okay, HSAs, 401k match, smart plan selection.
Yeah.
Plus, we talked about geography earlier.
Yes, geographic arbitrage. This is becoming increasingly relevant, especially with remote work. We saw how that choice between living in Texas versus California could mean a $200,000 difference in lifetime state and local taxes for our software engineer.
$200,000, that's not small change.
It's life-changing money for many people. If you have the flexibility, if you're a remote worker or maybe nearing retirement and thinking about relocating, consciously choosing to live in a state with lower or no state income tax and perhaps lower property taxes can be one of the single most impactful financial decisions you make.
It's like giving yourself an immediate 5% or 10% raise in take-home pay. pay just by moving across a state line in some cases.
Exactly. And that extra money, saved and invested consistently over decades, can easily compound into $500,000 or more by retirement. It's a powerful, proactive strategy to directly push back against that geography is destiny tax burden.
Okay, these are great individual strategies. What about the bigger picture?
Informed citizenship. It sounds maybe a bit cliche, but understanding this $2.4 million reality makes you a much more informed voter and participant in policy discussions.
How so?
Because you realize that policy changes, especially in healthcare, aren't just abstract debates. They have the potential to dramatically, tangibly improve or worsen your personal financial situation and that of every other American.
Bringing it back to that international comparison.
Right. The fact that other wealthy nations deliver universal healthcare, often with better outcomes, for roughly half the cost we pay, that's not theoretical, that's data. It proves that our systemic problems are, at least in principle, fixable.
So understanding the cost helps you evaluate proposed solutions.
Precisely. When you hear debates about healthcare reform, tax policy, Social Security funding, you can now filter those proposals through the lens of this $2.4 million lifetime burden. Does this policy realistically lower the $1.6 million healthcare claim on families? Does it make the $650,000 tax burden more equitable or efficient?
Thinking about it that way, any policy that could genuinely cut that $1.6 million healthcare cost in half, like getting us closer to the OECD average,
Is effectively like giving the average American family a $1 million raise over their lifetime. That's the scale of the potential impact. That awareness, that ability to connect policy to your personal bottom line, that's real power. Hashtag Tech and Semin. Outro.
So we've covered a lot of ground. We started with that confused 16-year-old staring at their first paycheck, and we zoomed out to this massive $2.4 million price tag that shapes the entire financial narrative of a working life in America.
It's the backdrop to everything.
It really explains so much, doesn't it? That feeling of financial strain, even with a decent income, the difficulty in saving, the anxiety around retirement. It all comes back to this enormous, largely invisible cost structure.
75% of lifetime earnings consumed by taxes and healthcare.
The numbers, based on the inter-existence analysis using KFF, census, and Social Security data, they seem pretty undeniable. Whether it's coming directly out of your paycheck or hidden in employer premium contributions or paid out of pocket, 75% of every dollar you earn is touched by this reality.
So the fundamental question we leave you with isn't if you're going to pay these costs. Barring some radical systemic change, you are absolutely going to pay them.
Right. That seems unavoidable.
The real question is how you'll pay them. Will you pay them passively, kind of sleepwalking through your financial life, always wondering where the money went, feeling constantly behind?
Yeah.
Or will you pay them with awareness, with strategic planning? Will you aggressively use tools like HSAs, maximize your 401k match, make conscious decisions about where you live, and choose your insurance plans wisely? Will you pay attention to policy debates because you understand the direct impact on your family's future?
Paying attention versus paying passively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe our final thought for you to really chew on, something we touched on earlier, is that core value proposition. Looking at the $1.6 million you're projected to spend on healthcare over your life and the $650,000 going to taxes, ask yourself honestly, is the American system as it's currently set up delivering fair value for that money? Are you getting $1.6 million worth of health insecurity from the healthcare system? Are you getting $650,000 worth of essential services and infrastructure from the government?
That's a profound question to grapple with.
It is, and it's a question that should drive not just your personal financial planning, but also how you engage with the broader systems around you.
We really encourage you, if you're listening, try to estimate your own numbers. Have these conversations with your partner, your family. Share this information. Knowledge really is power here.
Absolutely.
And if you want to dive deeper into the specific calculations, the methodology, see all the source data points from KFS 2024 survey, the Census Bureau, Social Security Administration, all the details that underpin this $2.4 million figure.
You should definitely head over to the Intrasistence blog. They have the full article laid out with all the charts and references we discussed today.
It's worth the read to really understand the mechanics.
Awareness is the first, most critical step. Use that awareness. Use it to make better decisions, to advocate for yourself, and to hopefully build the more secure financial future you deserve.